Reoccurring thoughts and our subconscious mind either make or break you. There are so many times throughout my day where I have these reoccurring thoughts and they're negative. And I have to think to myself, which took a long time to get here, those are not good. Now, it might sound, rudimentary, but I swear to you, the moment that you have those reoccurring thoughts and you don't immediately process them as something that you need to turn into something good, they will take over. They will. I've had literally years, if not what feels like thousands of years in my mental space taken up by absolute bull. So how do I get rid of it? Well, I like applying real world physical examples to stuff that happens in my brain to just make it easier to solve, figure out, and to explain, like I'm doing now. So imagine you open the counter or like the cabinet that you know is just garbage cabinet. You open it up, there's like pencils, some of them are in half, there's a pen with no lid. There's like little post-it notes, half of them are written on, there's like Neosporin in there. It's like DS cartridges. It's just a mess in there. And you slosh through for like 2 seconds, you find what you need, pick it up, close it again. That's like what we do with our reoccurring thoughts when we don't immediately get to the challenge and process them and bring them to something positive or beneficial or just come to a conclusion so that eventually we can work on it more when we're in a better state of mind. It's not a matter of getting the right answer immediately. It's a matter of slowly building your way up, like in many things in life. What I've found to be the most useful is to just, when I remember to do it, which is the most difficult part, is just remembering to do these things, just take the time and think about what were the thoughts that I had today that genuinely ruined the moment that I was in, no matter how good of a time I was having. What ruined my moment? Why did ruin my moment? Why did I let it ruin my moment? And what can I do to bring that to a positive space? Because a lot like that drawer that is just a mosh pit of everything, these thoughts don't go away. They likely, as our brain works, they likely will never go away. You just mature and you either accept it or you cope or you become like radicalized or something. It's so important to just acknowledge that this exists. It's like acceptance is the first step type thing. Once I'm able to open that drawer and sort some things over here, good, happened in my past, nothing I can do about it. Sort some things over here, happened in the past, but there is something I can do about it. I can talk to that person, I can level with that person, I burned a bridge, I can mend that bridge. Or, happening currently, how to make it better, how to not make it as bad as it's going to be. And then in the future, like insurance, like how can I make sure this doesn't turn out bad because I know that where this is going or where I'm going, it's going to be bad. Now, these are all things you should figure out as soon as possible, but we're humans and we are emotion and spite-driven animals, so we don't. So before we even come close to, settling our own mental, we have children, and then maybe we have like 5 or like 3 or even 1 is bad enough if you're in that mental space. And then the cycle just continues because the child is born in an inhospitable household and the cycle continues. I don't need to get into that. So the second part of this video is talking about just another analogy in real world to explain how our thoughts are so pivotal, and it's an exponential type thing. It's not like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It's like 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32, and then before you know it, you're at 1,000,000 in terms of severity and degrees of how important this is. Because the older you get, the more you realize that I've wasted my life doing this: drugs, bad mental states, anything like that. Social media, video games. You can easily waste your life away doing these things if you don't channel it into something productive, or at least acknowledge that you're doing something wrong. So I guess he's a poet, Khalil Gibran. Gibran is his last name. Khalil is his first name. I recently just found him. He's like crazy talented. If you're not into that kind of thing, like, I don't blame you. It's a lot like what I talk about, which is not like a niche thing, but it's not something that people genuinely like to talk about. People would rather, I don't know, watch fear on the news, or I don't know, whatever. So he describes the parent-child relationship. He prefaces this with saying that your child is not yours. The moment that you see a child on the street, that is another independent human being. We have a natural inclination to take care of them, but we all know when we get to like 21 years old and our parents are telling us like, oh, you know, you're my kid, you do what I want. You're like, no, I'm 21, I'm kind of going to do whatever I want. If you're from a culture or a household where that doesn't fly, maybe you're given all the free reins at like 15. I was given pretty, easy access to, whatever I kind of wanted to do early in my life. Like bedtime, I never really had a bedtime. Homework, I didn't really care, like that kind of stuff. So, but there are still things that remain. Khalil compares the child-parent relationship to a bow and an arrow. The parent is the bow and the child is the arrow. The arrow has free will though. The arrow, once it is pulled back, it can really go wherever it wants. It's up to the parent to bring the child back enough to send it as far as it can go. Now, here's why I like the analogy so much. It's because the bow, if you've ever shot a bow and arrow, you know exactly what I'm talking about, no matter how weak or, I guess, low in terms of lethality, I don't know, low in terms of like power the bow is, it's still pretty hard to bring it back and then not shake your hands. And that's why you have to settle all those terrible things inside your own head, all those repetitive thoughts into something positive before you have children, and then write that shit down. Because I guarantee you, after weeks of sleepless nights, if you're the woman, you go through absolute hell for a year, write that down. Make sure that your sane mind writes that down so that when you are objectively going to be insane after your child is born, you're able to read back and say, oh yeah, this is pretty important, so I don't destroy the life of my child, or at least if the child isn't mentally encompassing and free thinking enough to allow their parent to destroy their life, which is like what a lot of people have. There's a quote that goes along with it. I'll say it at the end, but basically, if you are a parent and you are the bow and you are all wobbly and there's not even like discipline or structure, it's like you can't go overboard, but you have to be able to recognize when you are sending your child into the right direction.